Hey guys, Coach Brandon Krause here. Today got a cool lesson for you on short range power punches, varying up the range of your power shots, fighting on the inside, fighting in the phone booth, call it what you will, but how to shorten those shots up and keep your balance and throw those effectively. In boxing, your power punches, every shot that's not your jab, can be varied in its range and still be effective. Your jab, on the other hand, has a finite distance that you as a boxer have to go out there and establish, right? And when they talk about establishing the jab is, you know, if I'm not hitting this target with the jab and I want to hit it with one of my power shots, well, I'm going to be reaching out of position. Or likewise, if I'm too close to the jab, it'd be a little bit too hard to get those shots off, right? But my power shots, on the other hand, I can vary the range by changing the ultimate distance that I want this to travel from conception. And here, I'm gonna show you what I mean. Let's say I was at my maximum range away from this target. I wanted to hit it with a straight right hand. Well, I would step in, I would use good technique, I would rotate my rear foot, protract my shoulder, and you see that I'm all the way out extended without losing my balance, without reaching in past that front knee. And I think everyone at home would agree that I can't make myself go any longer here. So let's call this the longest right hand I can possibly throw from this range. See that I'm in this position where my technique is solid, I've not lost my balance, I'm behind my lead knee, my right shoulder has protracted, and I've hit this on the end of the extension. And that's important because all the power lies on the end of the punch, on the final percentiles of that shot. And that's where I want to be in order to land a quality shot, okay? Now let's say I was a little closer to this bag. I do not want to throw that same shot that wants to end up here, where this is the 100th percentile of my extension, and just happen to hit it at the 30th percentile. Instead, what I want to do is I want to pick a whole new shot that from its conception to its end only ever wanted to travel this far and then come back into my stance. Why? Because now when I hit this target that's much closer to me, I'm hitting it on the end of that power arc. And that's very important. So instead of thinking about this long range shot that I just happened to land way sooner than I wanted and keep following through, I have a whole new shot designed that ever is going to travel this distance, and then I come back in my stance. And because that's the way I've designed it in my head, when I land at that range, the arc of power will be where I want it to be, on the end of the punch. If I were to completely miss this bag, my arm is not going to extend out because that's never what I wanted to do with that shot, all right? So I've changed the range of that power, but I've kept the power on the end of the punch. I hope you can understand that concept. The left hook also. Let's say I was at this maximum range where I would step in, staying behind that lead knee, and strike the bag. Well, this is about as much range as I could, with good balance and technique, cover with that left hook. I don't want to be closer and throw that same shot that I go, oh shoot, this target's too close. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to lean back in order to make this shot work. No. Instead, I have a whole new shot that's designed completely different. So instead of wanting to cover this range, now the shot is only meant to cover a much shorter range. So when I'm closer and I'm hitting that shot, I'm hitting it on the appropriate part of that power arc because I designed it to only travel that range in the first place. So here at Outlaws, we have a few different drills that help us get this concept of the varying ranges of the shots and help you experiment with the arc that you want to make, that you want to take to perform these shots properly. First drill, we're going to call it the range drill. Frieda's going to help me out right now. She's going to be in her boxing stance. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have her hit some sort of implement, like a medicine ball like I'm holding right now, or whatever you can find at home or where you're doing your drill. And the first range that we're going to practice is as close as it gets. And we're going to practice with that straight right hand, okay? So I'm going to get so close to her that it's impossible to get any closer. And this is a position you're going to find yourself in constantly. So what Frieda's going to do, she's going to experiment with throwing a shot from this range into this with power and making it as realistic as possible. Do it. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quarter step back. I'm a little further away. She's not going to throw the same shot. She's going to throw a new shot with a different design to be that little bit further away. Half step back. Twist the back foot. Half step back. Do it. And take that step into. And I'm going to step back to a point where my partner is going to tell me, you know what, now you're too far away. And the only way that I would be able to hit this is by leaning in and having bad technique. And we're not going to practice bad technique. So she will have effectively practiced the shortest range of punch possible, the longest range of punch possible, and many shots in between, all right? So we just got done with the straight right hand. Now we're going to practice the same thing with the left hook. So I'm going to get as close as I can. Let's see it, Frida. Nice. I'm taking a half step back. Do it. Half step back. And you let me know when I'm too far away. Half step back. Half step back. Getting to that point. Half step back. I think we're there, all right? So there, my partner has practiced again. The shortest left hook that she could find, the longest left hook she could find, and many shots in between. I would never say all shots in between because really, there's an infinite amount of ranges in between that shortest and longest that she can throw those shots. And in the course of your boxing career, trust me, you're going to throw a heck of a lot of those. All right, we did the left hook. Now we're going to do the right hook. Again. 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 Let me know I'm too far away. Too far away, all right? We'd go through the left uppercut from the shortest to the longest, the right uppercut from the shortest to the longest, and I would give her many go-throughs of this to experiment, getting better each time, figuring out how to hit harder and harder each time. Maybe 2 rounds of it, and then we would switch, right? So that's a common way that we organize this drill here at the gym. You know, hitting double end bags and medicine balls is fun, but that's not what we're trying to learn, right? We're trying to make this applicable to the ring and bring it to the real world of boxing, sparring, competition, all that, right? So I have another drill that makes this a little bit more realistic. Now, still with my partner, I'm still going to go to the closest range possible, which is as close as it gets. But now instead of my partner hitting a medicine ball, she's going to try to hit me. So she gets to practice with that range with a real live body in front of her. But here's the thing also, I get to practice the defense for these varying ranges. All right, so I'm going to try to hit you in the chin with a short, straight right hand. Okay, I'm going to take a half step back, half step back, half step back, and she's going to let me know when I'm just too far away. I think we're about there, yeah? Okay. So, again, like the drill before, she's effectively practiced from the shortest range to the longest range. But I get to practice that defense now also on that shortest range to the longest range, which you got to know also. So earlier I was talking about that your power punches are the ones that can be varied in range and still be effective, and not the jab. I said that the jab has a finite distance. It has its own distance that it wants to be, and it's your responsibility to get out there and establish that distance, right? So let's say I was boxing with Frida, and I'm far away, and I want you to block this shot. And I'm throwing the jab, and I'm getting that shot off, block it like that. And you see that I have her on the end of my shot where I want it to be. Now, as I get closer, I don't want this to happen. And the punch is changing. Because like I said, this punch doesn't change. What you're going to do is you keep knocking your opponent back with that range that you've established here. And now I'm in control of this stanza with my opponent because of that. And because I always have this range out, that's when I can get that long shot off of the jab that I have established distance-wise. And this is why they call the jab the measuring stick of boxing, all right? So the jab, you go out there, you establish. But all those other shots, there's a long right hand, there's a short right hand, there's a short left hook, and there's a long left hook. And of course, there's everything in between. You should practice everything in between. Just in conclusion, your goal as a boxer is to always have your opponent on the end of your shots, right? But the cool thing about these techniques with the power punches is that you can vary where the end of those particular punches lies depending on the technique that you choose, depending on the tactics that you choose. At all times, you want to be behind that lead knee. So when I throw that long right hand, I'm here. So a shot that would have me reach in front of it is poor technique. When my opponent's really close to me, I still want that rotation of my body because that's where the power is generated. But the difference will be that my elbow will stay bent and I will land this shot with authority without this arm ever having to extend out, okay? The left hook, I have that long range shot with those same fundamentals of keeping my balance. And the closer I get to my opponent, this doesn't happen. Instead, I keep this dominant position with my body and I only vary the arc of my elbow as I get closer to my opponent. The same can be true with the uppercuts. As I vary the length, the technique of my torso, the commitment of my hips doesn't change. The only thing that changes is the extension of my fist and the bend in that elbow. And that helps me keep that opponent on the end of those particular shots.
Like and subscribe.